We kick things off with and still Islam Makhachev defeats the Diamond Dustin Poirier by submission in a fight I think everyone kind of end or how it was going to play out, but I think like now that it's ended, it was like, yeah, I could see how that just a war, and then Islam ends up dominating and ends up getting a submission.
Bro, great fight. I've got to say, Dustin made it more of a fight than I thought he would. I was watching Khabib and Dustin probably 2 or 3 times before that fight just to really try to get reads. And either Islam just isn't quite as good as Khabib was, or Dustin got a lot better and really worked at those spots, because I saw some videos on Twitter after the fact where Khabib and Islam had Dustin in very similar spots during the two fights, and Dustin did a lot better against Islam than he did against Khabib. So even though he lost, I was still impressed by the Diamond. He cut Islam, definitely had Islam, digging deep for that victory. But I've got to be honest, yeah, Islam just didn't quite look as dominant or as good as I thought he would in the first round. He did, but he definitely got tired a little bit. I will say Dustin's one of the toughest guys ever to go into deep waters with, so I'll give him that. But were you expecting a little more out of Islam, or am I kind of tripping there, you think?
No, I mean, it was kind of like I said, like priors, like, can he duplicate the toughness and the escapes and like grind it out kind of how Volk did? And I mean, for ultimately he did. I mean, for 4 rounds, for 4 rounds, he did grind that out, and he was. I mean, one judge had it 2-2 going into the fifth. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he was right there. Dustin was right there. No, I don't think that I expected more out of Islam. I mean, Dustin Poirier is a world-class fighter. Dustin Poirier is a top 25, 20 UFC fighter of all time. So, no, I mean, I think it's unfair to say you expected more from Islam. Got the win. It's a tough fight. They're never going to be easy. The fights with guys like that, with Volkanovski, with Holloway, they're not going to be easy. You can't just go in and steamroll. It's not like that. Dustin Poirier is too good to get finished inside 2 rounds. So we cashed on the over 2.5 rounds. He's too good. He's too smart. He's been there before. When you've been in the octagon with Khabib, there's not much else that's going to surprise you. So, no, I mean, I think Islam fought a great fight. I just think that we have to give credit to where credit's due, and Dustin is really good. So I don't think it takes away anything from anybody.
Well said, well said. Dude, that finishing sequence from Islam was a thing of beauty. That ankle pick he had just swung Dustin around and jumped on the back so quickly, or I guess more on the neck. But that was just impressive. And Islam did say he admitted that he had staph infection, had to stop training for a week leading up to the fight. I think he found out about 3 weeks out. Said he wasn't pulling out, though, unless the doctor forced him. So, yeah, shouts to Islam. Great main event. Lived up to the billing. Do you think Dustin Poirier, he said he's going to take some time to think about what his next steps are, if he's going to hang it up or if he's going to keep going? If you had to bet money right now, what would you say is next for Dustin?
I don't know, man. I think he has one more big fight in him. I think we deserve a fight kind of going in knowing it's his last hurrah. There's a lot of guys you can do. You can do him versus Kobe. You can do him versus Nate. Him versus Connor if Connor wins. There's a lot of things you can do with Dustin. It's just if he wants to do it. I hope it's not it. It's kind of like how we talked about like before, like when Volk was dominating and he was beating Max. It's like you just get stuck. Like Max Holloway is really good, but just didn't have the title because Volk. Dustin Poirier is really good. It just so happens to be in one of the best divisions of all time at this time. Yeah. So it's just hard, man. It's like you look at it as like, damn, like how has Dustin Poirier never been undisputed champion? And he's so good. So I hope it's not it. I would love to see him fight a Nate Diaz, a Colby Covington, obviously a Conor McGregor. It's got to be something like that where he can kind of main event and headline. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to see him be done. I love seeing him in there. And I
Agreed,
mean, like,
dude.
let's be real here. Like, yeah, I understand. Like, you're probably lost the road back to the 55 titles long, and you don't really want to chase the title at 70, probably. But you just went 4.5 rounds with the pound for pound number 2 fighter in the world right now.
Yeah,
So you're
really
not
number
like you're
one.
not far off. Yeah, like you're not far off. Like you're in
That's
the elite
fact.
tier of your sport. So
That's
it's like
facts. It wasn't that he's too old.
in any given day, you can tell me Dustin Poirier is the second best lightweight in the world, and I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, it doesn't get harder than Khabib, Charles Oliveira, and Islam Makhachev all in their primes. Those were the 3 guys that Dustin fought for the title. So, yeah, man, wrong place, wrong time a little bit for Dustin Poirier in terms of getting the belt in his UFC career. Here's the scorecard real quick from, oh, that's the wrong one. Here's the scorecard from Islam Dustin. I don't know if I had it. I agree with Sal D'Amato. I probably had it 3-1 for Islam with Dustin winning that 4th round. But bless you. There's a close. It wasn't a close fight, but it was competitive. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's all you can ask of Dustin. He gave himself a chance going into the 5th. So you never know what could have happened there. He when he cut him, I thought he was going to have some action there.
Dude, those last 5 minutes, it felt like something special was about to happen. When Dustin stepped away from the seat back up into the center, I was like, shit, man. Even if I did lose my bet right now, I wouldn't even be mad. I cashed my Islam by sub bet. It was a sweat, but he came through for me in the end. I thought it was kind of hopeless after Islam had his first round or had his back in the first round with like 4 minutes to go and he didn't sub him. I was like, damn, Dustin's just not getting subbed again. But those tags are just too good. How about the co-main event? A little underwhelming, but I think it's both kind of how we predicted this fight to go. That is how Sean Strickland wins his fights. A lot of people think he's some brawler just because of the way he talks, but he's really not. He's a technical striker. He's more defensive than anything. I mean, you see when he does take chances, like at the end of the fight, he can be entertaining. He can drop people, but I think he knows that he doesn't have the greatest chin, and if he's trading with people, most of the time he's going to get dropped first. He knows where his strong points are, so you can't really fault him for it. It's on the other guy to take the fight to him.
Especially for like the guys he's fought. Like he can't stand in there and trade with Costa. He can't stand in there and trade with Rodriguez. Like I think that people don't give him enough credit because of how he talks and the way he acts. He just comes off as like kind of an idiot, but he's super high fight IQ.
Very, very high.
He just has so much feel in there. He just does it. All he does is fight, so he just has so much feel in there.
I got to throw this scorecard up because I was tripping balls when they read this off. And they said 49-46 Costa first.
Yeah.
That was insane. The other 2 judges had 50-45 Strickland, 49-46 Strickland. I don't think Costa won a round in there. You could have made an argument for that first round, but having Costa winning every round except for the 5th is absolutely nuts. I don't know how you could come to that conclusion.
Yeah, the judging all night, man, was not it.
Crazy. Yeah. I saw someone said it was crazy we didn't really have any robberies. There was a lot of wild split decisions.
Yeah, because it's only one person. It's only one person. Like, fuck. Everyone else, because it was so bad. The 2 had it the right way, and the one was just on rogue.
Dude, thank gosh, man. I think Joe Rogan has a good point about having more judges. Like, say there was 7 judges or 11 judges, and it just had to be more than half is who wins the fight. Just so if there is one guy like that in there, or even 2, you could still weed them out. So I think that's a solid thing to consider. I guess they'd have to shell out a little more cash, but there's plenty of that going around in the fight game right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard, but like, I don't know. And it's also just like, okay, we saw how he judged it. Now he just never gets to judge again. Like, that's bullshit. Or you have to like, there has to be, and I don't know this if there is or not, there has to be like a head guy of all the judging or whatever. Like, bro, like, let's sit down and watch this round and explain to me how you had this Costa winning this fight.
Yeah, like I know NFL and NBA referees, they have meetings after their games where they basically watch films on themselves with people from the league, and they do get critiqued on what they do wrong. So that's 100% what they should be doing, trying to take steps in the right direction. I believe that the commissions are the ones that employ the judges, and that goes state by state. So there's
Yeah.
not one overseeing body, which kind of sucks. But the UFC could definitely work with the commissions to make there, be some sort of criteria you have to meet, or you have to join maybe not a union, but something sort of like that, where you do have to watch your fights back and say, explain to me how you had Costa beating Strickland here.
Yeah.
So, and like we
But
always say,
then,
we're in the
put those on the interview panel. Go interview them after the fights. What did you see there? How did you have Paulo winning that fight?
I would love to hear what they say. I bet they
Yeah.
would just stumble over their words and spew out some absolute bullshit.
Yeah. Kevin
How about
Holland.
the greatest gatekeeper of all time. He said it himself. He had me scared in the beginning of that
Cash
fight.
me out, baby. Cash me out.
You called it, Kevin Holland by sub. Dude, Mikhail had me terrified when he dropped him, but it didn't really look – it looked more like a Charles Oliveira type drop where Kevin Holland was cool to go on his back right there because he looked like he was with it the whole time. He got a hand up right away. He dodged the next strike that Mikhail threw after he dropped Kevin, and then Kevin immediately just started hunting for a submission. Mikhail, he said he didn't tap. It didn't really look like he did, but at the same time, his arm was bent in a terrible direction. So
Yeah.
I think at that point, it's just the referee protecting a fighter from his own toughness.
Yeah, maybe me and Herb had the same bet there.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, what did you think for the card overall? Not any knockouts.
No, first time in a while.
Yeah,
maybe ever. A couple of submissions. I thought the fight of the night was Mickey Gall versus Basile Hafez. That was an absolute war. And Mickey Gall was from New Jersey, so the crowd was getting behind him. Gall they both ate a lot of flush punches, just full on wind it up, land on the chin. They would just stand there like nothing happened. So it's one of the better fights I've seen all year. It might even slot in at 2 right now for me behind Gaethje Holloway. Yeah,
I like that.
What about the middleweights? Did Strickland earn himself the title shot 100% after Izzy Dricus, or is there still an opening for a Whitaker or a Hamzat?
I think if Hamzat makes quick work, I think you can make a case for Hamzat. But I kind of think that the Dricus, Strickland, Izzy, those three, it was kind of going to be a fight either way. So I don't take into account like how Sean won or not. That doesn't matter to me in this situation because I think he deserves another shot anyway. And then you also want the rematch, either if it's Dricus and Sean or it's Izzy and Sean, you want that rematch. So I think Sean's next. We talked about it before. I think ideally what the UFC wants, I think UFC wants Izzy versus Strickland, then Izzy versus Hamzat. That's what I think the UFC wants. Now, if Whitaker wins, it throws a wrench into things, and it's for sure Strickland. But yeah, the case is Hamzat if he makes a quick finish. I don't see him finishing Whitaker quickly. But you go Hamzat if he finishes quick, but if not, Strickland's up.
I agree with that. I still think a guy we've got fighting this weekend, he gets no recognition, but if you look at his record over the last 5 years, it's just as good as any of these guys. Jared Cannonier, he's a dark horse. He had one boring title fight, and they want to banish him to the abominable wasteland forever. Yeah. But I think he has